LFC Daytrippers, brought to you by bookmakers.com.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the LFC Daytrippers. This is the viewer's voice. I know you're expecting Matt to be hosting, but something has come up at Matt's end, so I'm standing in for him. I'm really, really sorry. It is the viewer's voice. It is brought to you by bookmakers.com. Check them out at bookmakers.com for analysis, stats, comparisons, articles, wherever it might be. Use the stats for your fancy football if you haven't given it up about 6 months ago like me. And if you gamble, do so responsibly, and on there you can find all the best odds on all the sports from all the bookmakers. So if that's your thing, fill your boots, but do it responsibly. I'm joined tonight by Glenn, who's a regular kind of with Matt at this stage on a Thursday night, and Matt left me the bones of this show to go through, so we're going to. So Glenn, how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good, thanks.
Are you okay? We were having a little chat before we come on, and it looks like me and you're going to disagree wildly with the stuff that's going on here, which is always fun. People in the chat, if you're in there, you're very welcome. Hit the like, please hit the like button. Subscribe if you haven't already, and turn on your notifications, because genuinely every day we get people going, is there a show tonight? Trust me, when the show is set up, you will get a notification to say there's a show tonight, and it helps everybody out. Everybody in there, of course, is rejoicing at the fact that Manchester United are out of Europe. They're someone was going on about a treble. Oh, they were talking about a treble already. Okay, United were talking about a treble. David De Gea, I just tweeted saying he looked like somebody that had forgotten the bottom step was there. Have you ever gone down the flight of stairs and forgot there's one more step?
Not last goal, yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what he looked like. But they are out of Europe, knocked out 5-2 on aggregate by Sevilla. West Ham have gone through in the Conference League as well, just for Premier League related. Glenn, we beat Leeds on Monday night, wasn't it? Yeah. 6 goals to 1. We're okay in the first 25 or so. We get a goal, we get a second, we give away one, and then we just pull them apart. And we've seen this a little bit at home to Arsenal, where we were excellent for 50 minutes of the game. We've seen it there where we were kind of in control of Leeds without doing an awful lot, but we turned up then and shown, you kind of looked like going, yeah, that's what Liverpool are about. But the big thing to come out of it was Trent Alexander-Arnold. All right. Starts on the team sheet as a right back, ends up playing literally DM for the whole game, gets 2 assists, one where you'd expect him to be as a fullback, the way we play, and another one where he just drifts through midfield and thinks a lovely ball through. But the amount of passes he had, ball touches, ball recoveries and everything, the big talking point of it. Before we go into what it might mean in the future, what did you make of it? Because people thought Klopp was very brave to try it against Arsenal, but he does it again, and you have to admit it was impressive.
Yeah. The only thing I would say is that I wonder if Pep hadn't have done what he's done with John Stones 2 or 3 weeks before, would Klopp have thought about doing this with Alexander-Arnold? So that's an interesting one, because it's never really been done before, and obviously Stones, quite rightly, he's getting a lot of praise for this new role that he's playing. I know that Zinchenko's been doing it for a while. He done it sort of towards the end of last season with City, and he's done it quite a lot with Arteta. But yeah, like, it seems to be the thing at the minute, as I say. But the thing with Trent is that there's never been an argument in terms of when we were in possession, when we've got the ball. So to me, if we can get him in positions where he can affect the attacking third more, then I'm all for it. So to me, like, it's great to have him in them positions when we've got the ball. The only worry I have is just when it comes the other way, because he does have a lot of ground to make up when the ball transitions. and to get back into that right back position. And I mean, obviously Leeds were awful on Monday night. Let's be honest. So it's a hard game to kind of judge to see, well, how's it going to affect things when, as I say, these opportunities come about for the opposition where the ball switches over and he's out of position. So we'll have to wait and see kind of how that plays out. Obviously, City haven't really had any problems with Stone, but they're City, so it's hard to kind of compare with them. But yeah, as I say, if we can get him into positions further up the pitch where he can affect things a lot more, then I'm all for it. So that's definitely the positives from it.
Kieran says Trent has played inverted before in patches during some games, and Chris Brack feels that this might be a tactical option for next season. With this season pretty dead, you may as well start tweaks now. We get on to the season being dead, Chris. I'm disgusted at that, what you've said there. But I have a couple of things on this. We were talking about it the other night on our Winners and Losers show. I think it was me and Davo, and a couple of things on it. He has been inverted at times, because I've been at Anfield on the cop going, why is he 25 yards in from the touchline? But he was inverted in a way where he was still kind of looking after the right hand side, if you get me. So he's definitely done that. It's an interesting question with regards to if Pep hadn't have done it, would Klopp have done it? I think Klopp hasn't gone fully and done it, but I'm of the opinion that he's done it to protect Trent a little bit as well, because one of the biggest things this season for us is not winning games is the biggest thing, but it always seems to be who we're blaming for goals, and Trent was getting an awful lot of blame. And I'm not saying he's blameless for all the goals we've conceded, but I did feel, and his attitude, and we know all that, but I felt some sort of sympathy for him, because we were wanting Trent in a system with the players that couldn't do it to be a massive attacking option for us, but also be tucked in beside the centre half 10 seconds later. And you can probably do that 2 or 3 times, but when you're constantly trying to get up the pitch, it's hard to get back and be the defender you want him to be. I think if you stood Trent and went, listen, you're just a right back, don't go over the halfway line, I think he'd do okay. I think he'd be fine, because he wouldn't be clipping balls in behind him. He wouldn't allow himself in that position. Do you know what I'm saying? So I think Klopp's done it to protect him a little bit, where he's went, one, I want you to get you on the ball, a bit like you said, get him on the ball in central positions where he's not just looking, a certain part of the pitch, he's looking at it all in front of him. But I think it's a case of, when you go in there and we're in control of the ball, you go and express yourself. But if we lose it, we're going to have someone on that right hand side that their main thing now is to get back and be a cover for you until you get there. Is it a bit of both, where he's looking to express himself a bit more and he's trying to protect him? Because I definitely think there's a little bit of protection in here, because it was getting beyond ridiculous over Trent for me.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Like, sort of the two, sort of the years where we had finished second to City, and even the year we won the league, like, obviously he was always getting forward a lot from that right back position because he had so many assists. But like, Hendo was doing such a good job covering for him. I mean, I'm not blaming Hendo for any of this, but obviously we just haven't had that same level of protection. So,
no,
Klopp's hand has been forced, because obviously, like you say, there were times this season where it was getting ridiculous in terms of how badly exposed we were. Like I said before, though, how he's tweaked it, I definitely think the John Stones thing has played a part in terms of they've looked at that and thought, this could be an idea for us.
Which is not unusual.
Yeah.
Teams do that all the time. Teams look at other teams and go, oh, yeah, we can try that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, since Pep's been in the league, there's been so many things you could probably attribute to him in terms of how teams have now changed sort of, how they play out from the back and all that kind of thing. So like you say, it happens all the time, and it'll be interesting to see if this has a ripple effect sort of for other teams in the league. At the minute, really, it's Stones and Trent who are kind of getting all the attention for it at the minute. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if other teams do that. But no, I think the thing for me is again, like I said before, Leeds isn't really a good barometer to kind of test this against to say, well, is this going to work? Because
it's
they
Forest.
were so poor. Yeah.
Is Forest a good way to measure it? Because Forest are definitely coming to Anfield the weekend, are going to look to be really tight. So if Trent gets that ball in those positions, it's going to be harder for him to pick balls out. But Forest are 100% running channels. trying to hit
Yeah.
on the break. Is it more of a barometer against Forest, even though Forest are down there as well, and it is at Anfield?
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, I do think it will be. Yeah, because like Leeds are a bit of a shambles at the minute. So yeah, and I do think as bad. I mean, Forest haven't won a game in a while. So, but yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it'll be a tougher test against Forest on Saturday. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. But like, I think against teams who are going to sit in against us, like what Leeds done on Monday night, and what you would expect Forest to do on Saturday, it will definitely help in them games because there's no one else in the team who can sort of pass the ball through the lines like Trent. But I know Thiago's obviously he's a good passer of the ball, but Trent like passes the ball in a different way to Thiago. Like I feel like with Trent, there's a bit more fizz to it. Like he really drills the ball through the lines, whereas like Thiago's more sort of like round the corners, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I think like against teams who kind of sit in, it'll definitely be a great option to have Trent in them areas. Like obviously the first game that happened then was the Arsenal match, and I think the thing for me that I took away from it was we struggled playing out from the back the first half. Now again, you got to give Arsenal credit because they pressed us really well, but the only sort of concern with it is that because Trent picks up this central position, you're now relying on Kanate a lot more to kind of like bring the ball out and sort of play that pass from like the defensive third into the middle third. Obviously, he got caught out on Monday night against Leeds, but we really struggled against Arsenal that first half to kind of get out. So that's again that's like kind of one sort of downside to it, in that normally you'll be playing that ball to Trent, and he will be sort of playing out from the back or getting us out of that defensive third. So obviously there's pros and cons to every system, but no, like I said before, I definitely think when we're playing against these teams you're going to sit in against us, having Trent in them positions is going to be to our benefit a lot more, because as I say, he can play them progressive passes, whereas like Henderson, that's never been his game. Fabinho's never really been his game. I don't think Curtis Jones, I don't think that's his game either. So, if we can get Trent in them positions where he can get the ball into the final third a lot more, then it's only going to be good for us.
I think it's interesting the way you speak about Trent and the progressive passes. He passes slightly different. I think the difference for me is that Thiago will look to get. He plays some wonderful passes where he'll get people in positions where they're one-on-one with their defenders and stuff like that. And he no doubt has assists for Liverpool. Trent hits passes with intent. And what I mean by that is Trent will look up and see Jota standing 15 yards outside the box and go, I can put it into him. But Luis Diaz is running in off the left wing and I'm hitting that one. I'm going for the kill. I'm going for the kill now. I'm not, and I can play all these passes you want, but it's because he's a right back and the amount of assists he has is that his natural thing in his head is when I get into an attacking position and I look up, and especially from a central thing because you see so much more, I'm going for the kill. There's never, when do you see Trent in a position to assist and he goes, I'm going to pull this back to the edge of the box and he'd lay it off to him or whatever. He doesn't. He wants to kill. And that's why he's so many assists. So it's interesting like that. Just lastly on it, Kev says, and others in the chat as well, says it's also telling Fabinho looked a little bit more like himself, having extra bodies around him. And I think it's interesting because we end up with two midfielders quite high up the pitch. And my big thing about Liverpool this season is, and I've gone on and on about it to the point where I'm boring people, we were brilliant at winning second balls on the edge of people's boxes, or 10 yards outside, 15 yards outside the box, which meant that you're talking about Trent or Hendo covering Trent. And I've been on Anfield and seen it in the flesh where he just does cover him, but didn't have to do an awful lot of covering, if you know what I mean, because we'd win a ball in an area of the pitch where that team can't get out. Trent can then get back into a position where he's semi-ready to go again and go forward. We haven't been doing that this season. We've been killed by losing second balls outside opposition's box, and because our midfielders are kind of left, right and one's deep, there's space there to hurt us. Is there anything in it that Fabinho is being helped here a little bit? There's more to it than just Trent and a pass. It's more, get two lads a bit further up the pitch to win ball, and if you don't, at least you have two sitting behind.
Yeah, no, definitely, because that's the thing with Fabinho this year. Like, he's looked like he's been running through treacle the whole season. It's just kind of like, where's his legs gone? I mean, I'm not sure that was ever his game anyway, to be honest, but I just think, that there's probably a number of reasons why, but he has just looked so exposed this season. But no, like, going back to the Leeds game, like, that was the first match in a long time where I seen that like that counter press really come back to it. Like there was that one at the very end. I think it was actually in stoppage time, and they replayed it sort of after the match and showed Klopp's reaction where there was like 4 of them around one of the Leeds midfielders, and I was thinking to myself like it was almost a bit of a throwback because like we that used to be like us, that was kind of like normal for us to do that. But then seeing that on Monday night, it was kind of like, oh yeah, I remember that. So yeah, it's like if we can get that back into our game on a more regular basis, like because that's what we were all about. Like
Yeah,
and
Klopp's mentioned it during the week where he said, we can talk about transfers and we're definitely going to do some transfers, but he said, but the one thing that came over for me was he wants to get Liverpool back to a team that nobody likes playing. And that's what they used to do to stop you. That's what made you not like playing Liverpool. One fella gets the ball, 3 is on you. If he happens to get the ball away, another 3 are there ready to go. It was just hunting in packs all the time. And sometimes it wasn't in packs, it was triggered in certain ways, but it was horrible to play against. Absolutely horrible. And watch where they're winning it. They're winning it inside Leeds half. They're not doing it in their own half. They're winning it where they can't get at Van Dijk and Konate. They can't get at Fabinho because we're killing them. And that's been the massive issue for us. Would you like to see him in midfield? Would you like to see another right back or Liverpool and he goes into midfield?
I would like to see him in midfield, but then the problem is like we've got no other right backs because obviously, Ramsey, he's just been injured the entire season.
Yeah.
Milner, I don't think, I think
no,
he hasn't got the legs anymore. Let's be honest.
No.
So like, it'd be interesting that if we actually did have like a backup right back or a fit one anyway, it would have been interesting to have seen if earlier in the season Klopp might have made a change, but to a certain extent is kind of his hand was forced because we had no one else to play there. I know Miller did come on in a couple of games. There was a couple of games, I can't remember them exactly, but earlier in the year where when Trent did have a bad one, like he did bring him off of maybe like 20 minutes to go and put Milner in there just to kind of like shore things up. But like I said before, there's no backup to Trent, and to be fair, that there hasn't been for him for years because the only other player who's really played there on any sort of consistent basis was Joe Gomez. Obviously, again, he's had a lot of injuries, and James Milner. We've not had anyone else. Like obviously on the other side, we kind of had the same problem for a while with Robbo. I know in Simicast's first season, like he only played like 3 games, something like that, and then obviously last year because he got more game time, you can see now he's a reliable backup. He knows himself he's never gonna be first choice, but he knows he'll get enough game time because he's proved that he's capable. But we just don't have that on the other side, so it's difficult. I would like to see him play in midfield, but like I say, we've got no one else to play right back, so it's kind of like our hands are forced.
Chris says it's a definite no from Chris. He says you don't start him in midfield. That would change the whole system again. You start him at right back and let him drift into midfield. But you need other players then on top of that because you really need, for me, them midfielders that are supposedly going to be high to be absolute monsters of engines on them to be up and down. Because if you have Robertson, Konate, Van Dijk, right, and you have Fabinho and you have Trent, and that's your 5 there. Salah's up front. So is Gakpo, so you're going to need people in a wide-ish position or in that box midfield, as they call it, to be able to walk left and right. Do you know what I mean? You're definitely going to have to, because it really turned into a kind of a 3-4-3 with that kind of box midfield. But teams are going to go, hold on a minute, we're definitely going down the sides here. And I know Konate can come across and cover, but what happens then? We've one centre back in the middle of the park or in the middle of the pitch. And Matt's original thing with this was, is a 3 at the back in disguise? Can you see them going 3 at the back to try and make this happen? I still can't see it.
No, I don't either. I think like it will be a case of Trent sort of drifting in when we're in possession, and then when we do lose the ball, unless he can kind of counter press where he is on the pitch, then he will move back into fullback. Like the argument against him playing in midfields a lot of the time, and I kind of agree with, is that obviously a lot of midfielders, when they're receiving the ball, they're facing it, or they're receiving the ball with their back to goal. So, whereas when you're playing fullback, everything's in front of you. So to go from doing that sort of for the last 4 or 5 years, I know Trent obviously played midfield when he was coming through the academy, but we've kind of like redesigned him as a fullback. So to kind of then go back to that, I understand why people are saying no, that's why we should have him at right back. But I think the only reason why I say that is just purely at the minute we're seeing all the benefits in terms of going forward. I just worry too much about when it goes the other way. And again, like I say, I've said a few times now, obviously Leeds were so bad we didn't get an opportunity to kind of see how that could potentially happen. It's only really when we're going to play better teams. I mean, the interesting one would be if we're still doing it when we play Spurs, because Spurs are like they are counter-attacking side. So that would be the one game where it'd be interesting to see if we do get punished, because if he is still playing that system, you can guarantee that Tottenham will look to exploit that, because their game's all about get the ball into Kane and then get runners either side of him. So you can imagine Son would be looking to exploit that space quite a lot. I know you say obviously Kanate would be coming across and covering, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see when we do play sort of the stronger teams whether or not it does cause issues when we lose it.
I think with the Spurs one, what's interesting is they if they go three at the back, they have two wing backs, and they're quite happy to stick. They usually have two in midfield, and then you have the three boys up front. But they're quite. They have the option where they go three at the back, two wing backs, and we'll put three in there, and we'll play. We'll put three in there, or we'll even make one of the forwards come in and make a three, and then a Kulusevski off Kane or someone like that. So they're quite happy, I think, to go toe to toe in the middle of the park with us. The sort of way, and it's gonna be interesting. The different standards of team you play, the formations they play, but I think people in the chat have said there you need to have pressing, really good pressers of the ball in your 2/8s, as they would call them, forward, because they do end up as that. Do you know the sort of way? And we'll get on to a couple of names in a few minutes that's being linked with Liverpool. But just if Trent's in that team, and that's what we're going to go for, Matt had the question where he was asking, because of the change of shape, Jones, Elliott, Carvalho, is this a new lease of life for them if it was in this shape? Because I think it's a really good system for Jones. I think he tried in it the other night. I think Elliott would be very similar if you're taking a defensive responsibility away from him, but keeping him in a midfield as an 8, if you get me. And Carvalho, look, there's a lot being spoken about Carvalho. I'd like to think that he's just a very young guy coming into a massive football club. He had a decent start. He's gone away. They're working on him, and you'll probably see him a bit more next season. Now, we could go on loan. He could get sold, because I know nothing. But that's what I'd like to. But on previous kind of evidence that this has happened, Elliott goes off and does the loan thing, you know what I mean? Jones was in, out. And I'm hoping, because I like Carvalho as a footballer. When you see him, I think the runs he makes and all, he's very intelligent for me at the age he's at. So I'd like it. People like to make an awful lot of everything nowadays. I just like it to be one of those things where, listen, he's 20 years of age or whatever. Give him a break, let him have that full year where he gets fully immersed in Liverpool, and we'll see from there. You might think different on him, but is it a new lease of life? Does it actually suit these players better to be told, right, you have to go higher up the pitch here? We're going to go these three hybrid kind of at the back. We're going to let Trent come in here and look to influence. But with Fabinho, but the two ahead need to work hard, but also be pressing. And does it work for them? I think it might.
Yeah, because, I mean, obviously, if you had sort of like a fully fit team, you're always going to have Thiago in there. Like, I think he's like levels above any other midfielder we've got. The problem with him is he's just not fit enough. But again, the problem with Thiago is that he doesn't have the legs. So the only sort of concern for me is that, like, I just don't know if Elliott and Jones have got the legs to kind of play the kind of game that Klopp has sort of become accustomed to. And that's why, like, Henderson previously and Genie were so good for us, because they could do that. And obviously this year, we've really struggled. But obviously, like you said before, if Trent's now going to kind of like fill that position a bit more, and we have more bodies in midfield where we can sort of counter press more effectively, then yes, it's definitely a good thing for them because it takes a bit of responsibility off their shoulders. So yeah, it definitely could work for them. But with those three that you've mentioned, me personally, like I'm not sold on Curtis Jones, to be honest. I think now we've got obviously a few games left at the end of this season. To me, we should just play him, and obviously provided he stays fit, which again has been another concern with Jones in that he hasn't been on the pitch enough. But me personally, I don't know. I don't know if he's good enough for us. So really now this is the time where we've got to keep playing him.
I think
he has
he's
shown
going to persevere
glimpses.
with him,
Yeah. He's shown glimpses, but I don't know. I just think for me, like I'm maybe just thinking, I'm maybe comparing him to players who aren't in the team like Thiago, and I know that's an unfair comparison. But to me, like I just think there'll be better options than him. So that's what I think now. But I'd love to be proved wrong.
And in fairness, we're talking about midfielders needing to come into the summer, and I don't think that changes because Trent's wandered into midfield for a game and has looked good against Leeds. I don't think that changes. I think when you look at Liverpool's midfield and what they need, and we'll throw a couple of names out in a couple of minutes, and Passio makes a really good point. He said the 2-8s still have to be able to win duels. I don't see it happening for Elliott and Carvalho in those positions. But could you see, Elliott, I would argue Elliott. I think he's been a massive victim, really, of what Liverpool have been this season. I genuinely believe that.
100%.
You can never knock him for effort. You can never knock him for running around. He gets stuck in. He's good on the ball. He'll only improve. He's never going to be the complete midfielder at 19 years of age. He's just not, right? Bellingham is on that, but Bellingham's is captain in Borussia Dortmund. He's playing in World Cups. He's playing in Champions League. He's trying to catch Bayern Munich every week. Elliott has been really good for Liverpool. Really, really good. He hasn't got the game time that Bellingham has, and he's a different skill set. Could he work in an 8? I think he suits it. I think he can play in an 8 for Liverpool in a 4-3-3. That's my opinion, right?
He did last year. Like when he first came into the team, he was brilliant. That's up until that Leeds game where he got that bad injury. He was brilliant for us.
And Henderson wasn't getting back in the team. Henderson was not getting back in the team. Henderson was fit at the time and couldn't get a start. But the thing for me is that I think if you put Elliott in there with Fabinho in his prime and Thiago, he's absolutely fine. He's absolutely fine. Does he have to work on the defensive side? Yes. But the argument then is that in this system, or this whatever we're calling it, he's further up the pitch. Yes, he has to win duels. Yes, he has to get stuck in. He's never been accused of not doing that. It's the actual awareness behind you that's the problem. But Liverpool, to me, look like they're trying to sort that out a little bit by saying, with the two lads there and you two up high, we're going to take us being caught out of the equation here. We're going to make sure we win every single ball. Carvalho, it could be more of a forward option. But again, I think we're jumping the gun on him. You have to see him, I think, in a second year at Liverpool, possibly even after Christmas next season when you start to see the best of him. He's so young. He's at Fulham, he was great. But I wouldn't write any of them off, but I'm not saying we shouldn't sign midfielders because I think I don't think Henderson can do it for too long on that side. Because the
thing is,
it feels like it's a bit more high octane. What?
We have got plenty of midfielders. It's just
loads.
The main problem is that one, there's too many of them who aren't fit enough, and then the other point is that they're just not good enough anymore. Really, like it's not a case of numbers. It's just we need new blood in there. Like going back to Carvalho, like I kind of feel sorry for him in a way, to be honest, because I don't think he done too much wrong, really. The sort of the first few months of the season where he was getting a lot of game time, but then when he got taken out of the team, and I remember Klopp got asked about it in a press conference, and it kind of surprised me. Like Klopp was kind of so honest to kind of say like he's not doing what we want him to do, that kind of thing. Usually like with younger players, you think they might protect him a bit and might say like, we're managing his game time, that kind of thing. But Klopp was quite forthright in saying that, he's not doing what we're wanting him to do, and that's why he's not playing. but I don't know he done too much wrong in what I seen from him. I'm not saying he was, amazing by any stretch, but he certainly wasn't one of the worst performers, and I do kind of feel sorry for him a bit, that the fact that he's not had a look in at all, really, sort of second half of the season. Like, I don't even think he's featured since the City game in the League Cup.
I don't know if he's been in the odd squad, but I haven't seen
He's
him.
been in squads, yeah.
Yeah,
But
but I
he,
can't remember
like,
being on a pitch yet.
yeah, exactly. And then with Elliott again, like I think we've basically ran him into the ground this year. It's interesting now that the last few games he has been on the bench, and it's Jones who's getting the game time again. I don't think Harvey's been bad for us or whatever, but there were just signs that you could see that it was taking its toll on him, because obviously we've been a bad team this year, and especially when you've got young players in a bad team, it can be a big drain on them, because they are young, they're still sort of learning their trades. So I do think they have made a conscious effort to kind of manage his game time in recent
agree.
weeks, which I think is a good thing for him because, like I say, he's been ran into the ground this year, and again, like, it's never a bad thing to give someone, especially a young player, give them time on the pitch, because experiences can only be a good thing for them. But again, he's kind of been he's been a victim of like other players' poor form, because it's like, well, we've had to play him because other players have been so poor, and then obviously likes of your Keita and your Chamberlain have just always had their injury worries, and Jones as well. He's been injured quite a lot of the season, so he's kind of been forced to play because we haven't had other options. So
it's like, Kev was making the point about Carvalho. He feels he's a left winger. He's not starting ahead of Darwin, Jota, or Diaz, so there's just no room for him. And that may be the case, but it's just the world we live in now. Players out for a while. He's young, and they're selling him, and he's done this and he's done that, and he hasn't. On to wear knowledge, you just make something up and throw it out there and see how it runs. But I think if you're going off evidence of young players, I think you might see Carvalho in pre-season, you might see something a bit different from him. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying he should start with Liverpool every week by any means, and I'm not even saying Jones or Elliott should start every week. Like, I keep going on about it. You bring in two midfielders and Oxen, Kate, Leave, immediately improves you because they're on the pitch. So it definitely improves you. The sort of way. And look, if I was to guess, Liverpool will play 4-3-3 on the opening day of the next season. Trent will be right back, and you'll have probably a Fabinho, but you'll have fellas the either side of him that are going to run, i.e. the likes of, could be a Mount, it could be a McAllister, we don't know yet where it might be. It could be Jude Bellingham. And stop laughing, I'm going to go on to him in a minute. But look, it's intriguing to see, and I think it's just added that little bit of, it's interesting to watch Liverpool just to see what they're trying, but at the same time, results are there. So, a couple of things before we finish up. Top four. I'll ask you this before we go on. So, top four, I don't give up on anything until it's mathematically gone, right? I never do, right? I would have said it's nigh on impossible to get top four, but I was doing a show on bookmakers.com earlier, and I was talking to Jamie, who's a sports fan, and we were kind of looking at it going, well, if you win at the weekend and Spurs win, there's only 6 points between you and fourth, which is a fair point. Are Liverpool out of it? Or do you think, I think you said to me earlier, teams will drop points, but we just won't get enough to capitalise. Is that where you are with it?
Yeah. It's like, it was the reason why I thought I said that was because it was after the Leeds game. Carragher was asked the same question, and that's what he said. He was basically like, you just can't trust this Liverpool team this season. And again, I think it's a case of, it's a weird season because even when we were, likes of last season and the year we won the league, like, I don't remember us having 3 games where we beat teams 9-0, 7-0 and 6-1, So like this year we've had like freak games like that, and I think like the thing was after the game on Monday night, because that did look like the Liverpool that we know, or the Liverpool that we're used to seeing. I think that's why people are maybe starting to think, is there a chance? But again, it's just like, for me, the reason why I say that I don't think we will get fourth is, like I was saying to you before, it's not a case of the teams won't drop points. It's just that we won't accumulate enough points to take advantage of that because we're so far back. And the reason I say that is just because there's been so many false dawns this season. Like, you go back to the City game at home, sort of the start of the season, and obviously we won that game, and then we backed it up midweek, beating West Ham, and I think at that point, like, we weren't a million miles off Arsenal, who were top of the table at the time, but then we went out on the weekend and we put in that performance away to Forest, and it was just so dire, it was beyond belief. We kind of muddled through to the World Cup break, and again, we had them 2 wins against Spurs and Southampton, got ourselves in a good position, and then again just after the break, we were absolutely abysmal. That game against Brighton and the one against Wolves were just horrendous. Then again, we beat Newcastle at St James's Park, and you think, right, we're back in it, and then we go away to Bournemouth a couple of weeks later and just put in that. So to me, it's just like, I'm just going off what I've seen
and that's
earlier
fair.
in the season. You would like to think the players, Klopp would be saying to the players, look, we cannot do this again. You got to go out on Saturday. If we go out on Saturday and beat Forest 3-4-0 or 3-1 or whatever, it will sort of make the teams above us stand up and think,
and
have they learned their lessons?
The way I'm kind of looking at it, I'm trying to talk myself into it, right, is we play Forest the day before Newcastle play Spurs, right? Which means we'll be on 50 points, Newcastle be on 56, off the back of a defeat at Villa, right? Which will kind of put them in their box a little bit, because that's a team I feel that are probably ranked around the same as Newcastle. And though Newcastle have been hitting the highs this season, a team that you would roughly think are ranked the same absolutely annihilated them, And Newcastle aren't in terrible form, they're in okay form. Villa are flying, and we still have to play them. And that's the reason I'm trying to talk myself into it, playing before them. And when I look at the fixtures, away to West Ham during the week, and then we've Spurs, I think it's Spurs, Brentford, Leicester, all at home.
Fulham's in there. Fulham at home.
Is it Fulham?
Yeah.
Sorry, we go away to Leicester. So it's Spurs, Fulham, Brentford, all at home in a row. Then it's away, I think it's away to Leicester, home to Villa, away to Southampton. So there's loads. We should win all them games, as I think, right? And I'll tell you what, I won't. You think we won't. I think we've a chance. You think we've a chance, but we probably won't pick up enough, even though teams will drop. Can we talk after Spurs at home? Because if we beat Forest, West Ham, Spurs, it would be another 9 points on the board, right? And we'd still have Fulham, Brentford at home. There'd be 5 to go. Do you want to talk to me after that game when we see how we get on?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Like,
okay.
I think the thing is,
I think the next 2 are huge. I think the next 2 are massive.
Yeah, they are. They're absolutely massive. The only thing that I could maybe sort of cling to in terms of making me think that it won't be like the previous false dawns is that it is kind of like last chance saloon for them now. It's like there's not enough games now really where if we do go out and get beat or draw a couple that we can really turn it around. So, hopefully that'll kind of be a bit of a fire in the belly for the players in that, we have got something to play for here. Yes, it is still a long shot, but like you say, if we do pick up wins in our next couple of games against Forest and West Ham, and if we do beat Spurs, like there's no doubt about it, we'll be very close to whoever's sitting in fourth position. And I think because we done it a couple of years ago, where we had that great run, I think we won like 8 of our last 9 games or something like that. Teams will know that as well, and it'll put them under pressure. So, yeah, if we can win our next 3 games, then I would say it's definitely on. But it's more hope than expectation from me.
Red Steve says Gav's trying to do the 3 times tables in his head. Was it that? Both our pants says we have the easiest run in, to be fair, but we ain't getting top 4. Brighton have 2 games in hand. Says bonkers, which is a fair point. They've only played 29 games. Newcastle have to drop 9 points. It doesn't seem likely. It's a sleepy Forest. Brighton have lost weird games though, says Scott. Let me see. Anything else there?
And they've got the semi-final on
Yeah,
Saturday
there's a
as well.
semi-final at the
Sorry,
weekend as
Sunday.
well. Yeah, Sunday, isn't it? Sunday. They
Sunday,
play. Yeah. Newcastle probably need to lose 4, and they have 4 relegation candidates in the last 8. Pressure's the mad thing, though. Pressure's a mad thing. And but
They've
Red
got
Steve,
Arsenal to play and Chelsea.
yeah, and Red Steve did say, he said earlier in the chat, he said in 2 weeks' time we will be 5th, breathing down the neck of Newcastle. He's promising us this. So I don't know why he's promising, but he is. Look, there's 700 people watching. Hit the like button if you're there. There's only 71 of you have hit the like button, which is appalling. Let's be honest about it. So smash the like button as well. Notifications on. Subscribe if you haven't already. All that sort of stuff. Last but not least, we've talked about midfield. We've talked about the youngsters. Lease of life. Blah 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 blah. Couple of things. We're being linked with Mason Mount. We're being linked with Alexis McAllister. The Bellingham thing is all over the shop. 2 questions. 1, is the Bellingham deal dead for you? And 2, what midfielders would you like us to sign if Bellingham is indeed off the table?
Do you know what? Obviously, whenever it got leaked in the media, I think it might have been last week or the week before. I can't remember. Obviously, we were all gutted to hear that, but it's not the first time this has happened with players that we've then went on to sign, and that's obviously that's something that was pointed out by a lot of people, like Allison, Thiago. I think there was a couple others. I seen someone had posted like a tweet with like all like the screenshots of the article saying Liverpool pull out of the race for such and such. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's completely dead, but to be honest with you, I mean, obviously we know our owners are, they are tight. Like, let's be honest, they don't put any of their own money into the club. It's on us to generate it for ourselves. So we don't have the resources there to go out and spend as much as the others. So on that basis, I genuinely, don't get me wrong, I would love to see Bellingham in a Liverpool shirt, but for me, I think our need is greater than just him. And what I mean by that is I think we do need 2 or 3. I don't think Bellingham on his own would be enough. I think we need numbers in there. So for me, like, once that did get leaked, I kind of thought about it. I thought, you know what, like, if it was a case of just getting Bellingham and no one else, or using that money to get 2 or 3 midfielders, I think I probably would go for the latter, because I think that need is greater in terms of getting numbers as opposed to just Bellingham at all costs.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like that would. I know that there has been a lot of names mentioned. I think Gravenberch is getting a lot of. He's getting a lot of attention.
McAllister, Mount, Gravenberch, Julian Timber, says Red Jobby. What's your thoughts on that? That's a centre half kind of move. Conor Gallagher from Chelsea always comes up. I'm of the argument that they have to spend, and they have to spend a lot of money. And if it takes Jude Bellingham and 2 more to spend 200 million, go and do it.
The mad thing is that, like, we should be able to spend 200 million, in a transfer window. And when I say spend 200 million, I don't mean like that. I'm not saying like without any, or I'm saying that like regardless of outgoings. Obviously our model up to this point has always been that we've generated income to spend on players by, obviously Coutinho is the most obvious one, but as well as that, like flogging Jordan Ibe and Dominic Solanke to Bournemouth for ridiculous fees. We've done really well in selling off our fringe players and getting a lot of money for them. Like, we got 12 million for Danny Ward. I mean, fuck me, that was
he doesn't know how to use his arms. It's mental.
I know.
Yeah.
But obviously,
we got 12 million after telling people that he was going to be the number 1. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Do you remember we went, oh no, Danny Ward's going to be the number 1. Karius is all over the shop. Danny Ward. And then they're like, okay. And then they just signed Allison, and Danny Ward went off the list. I genuinely has forgotten how to use his arms. It's incredible. So,
but I think the difficulty this season, what I was going to say is that I'm struggling to see who our sellable assets are in terms of how we could generate income. Because
but that's part of the reason why there's no, people will use that as, the sellable assets there. So how can we spend that amount of money? Immaterial. Liverpool need to go and adjust
Yeah.
and sort out an issue that has been building for at least 2 years at the club, right? And not only has it materialised and manifested itself, it's affected us massively. Now, unless you sort it out, it's going to continue to affect you massively. I don't care if you move Trent into midfield or Robertson's playing right wing so we can cut in on his left foot. You have to sort this out. And the only way you can sort it out is forget outgoings. You need to go and get these 3 players that are going to make you better, right? It means then that instead of Ox and Kate sitting around going, I'm injured for the last fucking 3 years, you have players that can play, right? Which takes the pressure off players that are probably played too much, i.e. Fabinho, Henderson and Elliott, like you've spoken about. So all this of outgoings, and like Daz TV, good to hear from you, Daz, he says, I think we'd be ruthless this summer and more than we expect could move on, right? Absolutely fine. But we need to spend money. It's the only way out of it. You're not going to roll a dice here and hope for the best. We're gone past that. If we needed one midfielder, you go, you know what, we could be clever here and do this and this might work. We're not. We're sitting on a midfield as a whole who, for me, are not reliable enough. Don't get on the pitch. We know who we're talking about. Aging, right? Milner is brilliant to have around the squad, but he should probably appear 15 times a season. Majority of them off the bench. Henderson's not getting any younger. You can see that. Fabinho has loads of miles in his legs. Thiago's not getting any younger. And when all these are affected, the knock-on effect to that, to Elliott, to Jones, to Bajcetic as he comes through, is huge to them. Because they're in a team then that aren't playing with these fellas at their optimum. So everyone gets affected by it. You need to bring, not just for the sake of getting them on the pitch, to relieve other players of responsibility and games is absolutely massive. Plus, it gives you that kick to everyone that's there that may have, and this could be part of it, there's a staleness there. There's a comfort zone there where people go, I might be shy, but I'll be back in. Like Fabinho, awful. Gets dropped after Brighton away, I think it was. Or might have been Brighton away, he gets dropped. Not seen for 3 or 4 weeks. He's back now. So he knows, no matter how bad it gets, I'll get in this team. Because what else
Well,
is
there's no
around?
one else to play there at the minute.
Correct.
Obviously, because
Correct.
Bajcetic is...
But if you swap me an Ox and a Keita for a McAllister and a Mount, right? Or even better, swap me one of them for a defensive-minded midfielder, right? Fabinho's looking going, fuck me, this fella can run. This fella can run all day fucking long, and I can't. And then the comfort zone goes. So they have to spend it, Glenn. Outgoings, fine. If you want to get rid of a few, and there will be a few going anyway, go and do it. That's where you're a bit clever. Where I can get rid of him. Like, there's no problem selling Fabinho for 40 million quid and signing, the next reincarnation of fucking N'Golo Kante for 70. There's no problem. That's clever. Do you know what I mean? That's where the cleverness comes in. But there's cleverness and then there's a necessity. And the necessity is there that you need to fill a big hole in this squad. And it's going to cost you money. Everything costs you money. Simple.
Yeah. And the thing is that it's like if they don't spend the money, you're going to lose it because you're risking being out of the Champions League for 2-3 years potentially. I mean, I know obviously we touched on the top 4 there already, but if we don't make it there, like, to me, this whole thing about, well, I think it was Neil Jones from Goal had said a while ago about there's 2 lists, there's a Champions League list and there's a Europa League list in terms of targets. To me, I think that's complete utter nonsense because
So do
like look at what Arsenal have done this summer and they've not been in the Champions League for I don't know how many years.
No, air model is air model, and I agree. I think it's nonsense. And Liverpool, someone at Liverpool is quoted as saying Liverpool have the resources there to deal with being out of the Champions League for a season. No problem.
100%. Well, we had like last year. Obviously, we had record revenues. I think it was only was it City and Madrid were the only 2 that had greater revenues than us last season when the accounts were published. So to say that there isn't money there, I know obviously that it goes on other things as well, but it's complete nonsense. So yeah, like I said before, in terms of the outgoings, there aren't too many there who are going to generate much income. I would say probably the only one would be Fabinho, but how much are you going to get for him at his age and off the back of the season he's just had? But yeah, like there's no two ways about it. Like the owners, the club, they do need to put their hands in their pockets and they need to go out, because if we don't get it right, then you could end up being an Arsenal who just are in a sort of cycle of just trying to get back in the top four. And obviously we had that, sort of as Klopp just came in. You don't want to go back to them days. So,
No.
you have to get it right
But
sooner rather than later.
I'm like, I understand when people say the FSG don't have the same ambition as, say, me and you do. Like, our ambition when we grew up every day to go and watch Liverpool is they win. And they win every time I go, and they win every time I watch them. And people will argue, well, FSG, if they get in the top four, if they finish third, the difference in money earned from third to fourth in the Premier League is not a massive amount of money. It's probably 10 million quid. But it's not a massive amount of money. And Liverpool are Liverpool, so they're in the top 3 or 4. They're on the telly every week anyway. Like, Liverpool are very rarely not on the TV. This Saturday they're not on the TV, but they're playing Forest. But every other week, like, Liverpool are on, the sort of way. So Liverpool usually turn over most teams with regards to revenue from TV money because they're on. When it comes to, and I get people saying they don't, want to win as much as we do. Nobody wants to win as much as me or you or anyone in that chat. Nobody does. No, you know what I mean? It's because it's all you can think about. But they have an asset to protect. And as much as people argue over, 4 billion, if they left now, they'd make this, they'd make that. Trust me, if they don't do this right, their 4 billion asset will have 25% written off it within a year to 18 months. Simple as that. Because if you're not in and I know people say, we're back in the Champions League or this, but listen, if you're meandering through the Champions League and you're getting in and you're going round to 16 and you're fourth in the league every year, people don't want to pay all the money Liverpool are being paid. Nike don't want to pay you 80 million quid a year and go, listen, you can have 80 million plus, is it 20% of all profits made or whatever. They won't want to pay you that. You'll have fucking Warrior turning up going, there's a tenner. Do you know what I mean? Or that Castor crowd or whatever it is. Like, you know what I mean? Like, genuinely, Liverpool earn so much money because where they are. And the club know this. The club know this. We're in the Champions League every season. We've been in title runs 3 of the last 4 seasons. Wherever we go, people want to watch it. We won the League Cup. We won the FA Cup, Champions League finals, whatever it is. Liverpool make a lot of money, right? And because of that, the asset is worth a certain amount. They have to know that if we don't sort this out, and I think the biggest thing out of it all is you're wasting Jurgen Klopp's time. You're wasting, like, genuinely, you're wasting the time he has left with Liverpool by saying, can we be clever this summer? No, we can't fucking be clever this summer. You just give me all the fucking money and I'll spend it and I'll be as clever as you fucking want then for the next 3 seasons, and then someone else will come in and be clever for you. But right now, clever doesn't cut it. It has to be money, it has to be down, and it has to be players. So if they do that, give me 2 midfielders you'd like, not 3. I'll only ask for 2 because you're not picking Bellingham. You think it's appalling.
It's not that I don't want them.
That's just
it's just, to me, I just think, well, I just don't think he will come because I just don't think the club will pay the money for him. Obviously, if things were different, then 100%, like, he'd be number 1 on the list. But as I say, I just don't think the club are going to. I do like Mount, to be honest with you. He's not really, well, I mean, you could say this about the whole Chelsea team this year. Obviously, he hasn't had his best season, but obviously he's still young, but I think he has a lot of the attributes that would fit well in our team. So I think Mount would be a good shout.
Is Mount a good shout to you? Because I'm of the argument as well. I don't want to see a player coming in where they go, he comes in and he can kind of play the 6 and he can kind of play the 8 and the odd goal. I'm not into that. I want the fella that comes in and goes, he is brilliant at that, and that's where he's going to play. Because I don't, as much as we want to spend the money, we have to stop messing around with these versatile bullshit. Just put him in the team and play him. That's where I'm at now. Is that why Mount is appealing? Because we know everything he has and we know where he plays.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And again, he's got longevity because he's still young. So, he's only going to get, he's only going to get better, really. And I think if you put him, you if he was being managed by Klopp, like you just think like what he could turn him into, and that's what Klopp's like. That's what he's been so good at is bringing in players. I know, obviously, Mount's playing for a big team at the minute, but think of the players in the past that the Klopp has and what he's turned them into. Like think of like Wijnaldum. He wasn't a bad player because obviously we wouldn't have signed him otherwise, but Klopp completely changed his game and took him to a completely different level. So there's the potential there where, with Mount, I know he's a different type of player than Genie, but imagine him working under Klopp for 2-3 years and what he could do with him. So I do honestly, I think Mount would be a good one. Again, not necessarily saying he's like top of my list, but Gravenberch, like the year before, obviously he's not really getting a look in at Bayern this season, but I thought he was really good for Ajax whenever we played them in the Champions League. He looked like a really good player. I'm not sure why he's not playing at Bayern Munich this year, but again, it's like I'm thinking as like in terms of like how I know we operate as a club, and I'm thinking like he's probably one where we could get him on a good deal, and he's very young as well. So to me, like there's massive upside, and there's probably like very little risk. And knowing the way our club operates, that's the kind of things that they'll be thinking. So I think Gravenberch would be a good signing. So I'd say him and Mount. I think I mean if we did sign them two, I'd be happy. Don't get me wrong, I think we need more than just them two. But yeah, from the people that have been linked with, them two probably stick out. I know McAllister's been getting he's been linked quite heavily.
He's probably been the most linked, in fairness. When you read into it, he's probably been the most reliably linked, I would say.
But like just going back to what you were saying before around sort of like the Fabinho rule, obviously we know we got Bajcetic to come back, but like Caicedo's another one who's kind of been mentioned. I know obviously he was obviously he wanted to go to Arsenal in January.
He was absolutely Peter out the wingy, wasn't he? In January.
Yeah, well, I mean, like again, this is the thing. Like Brighton themselves, they know that they're a stepping stone club. They can't compete with teams like Arsenal.
I think they know they're losing McAllister in the summer, and that's why the Caicedo thing didn't happen. Because I think they're nearly sure they're losing McAllister. I think once he wins that World Cup, they know that's him done. It's not even the fact that he doesn't feel Brighton are big enough. Alexis McAllister, image rights and exposure for him as a World Cup winner is through the roof, right? It's through the roof, and it just, I'm sorry, Brighton, but it outgrows Brighton. It just does, and that's what it is. Like, if you're not signing Bellingham, right, and I still think there's a sniff of it, I'm going to be honest with you, because I haven't heard anything different. I don't believe all the people that said all that stuff. My first choice would be Moises Caicedo, without a shadow of a doubt. I think he comes into that team and he's an absolute engine all over the place, wins the ball up and down, good footballer. He'd be my first choice. But I can see why McAllister is linked, because I think he works so hard. Like the difference he made to Argentina in that World Cup after they'd been beaten by the Saudis, went in the first game. He doesn't play, he comes in and they just change immediately. And I'm not saying it's all down to him. They make 4 or 5 changes. But his understanding of his teammates around him and the job he had to do, he was excellent at it. Absolutely excellent at it. He's an eye for goal. He's a good footballer. He can hold the ball. He's not afraid to take it in positions and, be responsible for it. I think the Gravenberch one is interesting. Oh, you're bang on. Low risk, lowish money. But I think he's a great signing if you sign him. I think he'd be made even better if he was a signing that supplements a bigger signing. Like, because people would go, oh, Gravenberch, but if you brought in a McAllister or a Mount or a Caicedo beside him, you go, Jesus, and you have Gravenberch as well, he could, the sort of way, like, and I'm only thinking of as, we all think about transfers. He's good, but we got him as well, sort of way. And I think Gravenberch on his own would be, that's a good signing. But I think there'd be more excitement around it where you got him and Gravenberch, the sort of way. So they're the three that have been heavily linked. McAllister, Mount, Caicedo, or Mount, Gravenberch. I think Liverpool could easily do them 3 in the summer. Easily.
Yeah, 100%. Like, there's no, like, again, there's there's no reason why they can't. Like, I think like the only like sort of the one good thing is that obviously like you'll get times where you're looking for players in certain positions, and because of like contracts and whatever, like there might not be players available for the position that you need. But that's not the case this summer, because like we said, obviously Gravenberch, Bayern, he's not really even getting a look in there, so they probably love to get their money back on him. I don't think they paid too much for him. Brighton know that with McAllister and Caicedo, it's one of them ones where it's like, for a club like Brighton, they know they can't keep hold of them players. So for them, it's like, we've got to sell at the right time.
They're lessening the
Like,
exposure by selling one now and having Caicedo, who I think is on some sort of deal in his contract where next summer for a certain amount he can go.
yeah, because what I was going to say about with Brighton and them players is that I think it's going to be similar with Rice at West Ham. Like, he's told West Ham, I'm not signing the new contract. So like they basically got a decision to make this summer. It's like, well, we either sell him and get something, or else he stays another. I don't know whether it's another year or 2 years he's got left.
He's 2 years left on his deal, I think.
Yeah,
so, but if it runs another year, why would he let himself be sold then? You know what I mean? He just waits 6 months or 4 months, and he can sign a pre-contract, and he's away, and he's making a huge amount of money. It's interesting. I think it's definitely, there's a load of things we've talked about tonight that we should actually come back and talk about. But I'll come back as a guest and let Matt slide back into the host duties. But like talking about Trent, it's something that you're going to watch develop in front of your eyes. If it does, the young lads, he's going to persevere with Jones for me till the end of the season. But again, that could be him just putting Jones in the shop window. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it could be something like that. And of course, with the transfers, look, they're going to rumble on for fucking ever. I'd love Liverpool to sign 3 players in July the 4th and go, we're done. 100%, we're absolutely done. And we can just enjoy the summer, but I don't think it's going to go that way. The charity, our charity campaign, the link is in the description. If you want to donate, go ahead and donate. Brilliant. Any super chats we get on this channel between now and October, when the Dublin Marathon is run, goes towards this this campaign that we're doing for breast cancer research. If you can't donate, take the link, share, friends, family, colleagues, stick it up in the canteen, in work, wherever it might be. And if you want to help us with our golf day, we are looking for T-Box sponsors, long drive, nearest the pin, raffle prizes. If you want to get in touch about anything like that, lfcdaytrippers@gmail.com, to the point where if you want to donate money to us to buy prizes, we will go and buy the prizes. And so it's an easy thing to do. You can just transfer the money and we'll go and do it. You don't have to go down to shops and start buying stuff and posting it and stuff like that. So listen, that's the biggest thing out of all this, the charity thing we're doing. It's huge for us. It's huge for the people running the Dublin Marathon. It's huge for breast cancer research. It's an illness that, hits nearly every family or someone you know. So it's a huge thing for us this year. So if you can help out in any way, lfcdaytrippers@gmail.com. Email us, just put on the top of it, charity day, something in big writing, and I'll see it and I'll follow up on it ASAP. Glenn, anything else before we go?
No, I think we've covered quite a lot there.
Yeah,
we'll just see how it goes on Saturday. If Liverpool turn up, or it's the Liverpool of old. Hopefully not. But
they're winning on Saturday. Yeah, we've kind of read the word it's right, and I'm kind of happy with that. Look, rest of the week. What day is today? Thursday. The lads will be back with the Premier League forecast tomorrow night. We should have a full-time Reds on Saturday after the Forest game, but I know a couple of lads are doing different things, so we're trying to move a few lads around to get that sorted. The Fatback 4 will be back on Sunday and be back into it again from Monday. That has been Viewer's Voice. That's been Gav standing in for Matt. That has been the brilliant Glenn. Thanks a million for everyone in the chat. For all your comments, hit the like button on the way out. Subscribe if you haven't already. And make sure you turn on your notifications. Talk to you in a bit. Over and out.